she never meant to sit there. In fact, she never wanted to attend the corporate gala at all. The soft-spoken intern in the second-hand blazer and scuffed heels only showed up because she didn't want to disappoint her mentor. But one wrong turn, one moment of confusion, and she sat down at the wrong table. The VIP table. With a glass of sparkling water in trembling hands and a racing heart, she whispered frustrations about that arrogant CEO who never smiled, never noticed the struggling interns, and probably didn't even know half the employees' names. What she didn't realize was that the man quietly sipping his drink across from her, sharply dressed and listening closely, was him. Speech balloon. Before we dive into this unforgettable story of misunderstanding, courage, and second chances, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, our Apple of Hope, especially if you believe that everyone deserves a moment to be seen, heard, and redeemed. Mira Ahmed was the kind of girl who made herself small in rooms too loud, too bright, too rich for someone like her. Raised by a single mother who juggled 2 jobs and still came home smiling, Mira learned early that kindness didn't pay bills but it did build character. She had grown up in a tiny apartment in the heart of Lahore, where the ceiling leaked in summer rains and the walls echoed with quiet prayers. When she landed the internship at Aurora Global, one of the country's biggest tech firms, it felt like a golden ticket. But stepping into the shimmering marble lobby on her first day, surrounded by high heels, tailored suits, and cold glances, she felt like a shadow walking through a dream that didn't belong to her. Her internship was unpaid, of course, a rare opportunity, they said. So Mira worked full days at Aurora, then part-time tutoring at night to support her mother and younger brother. She brought her lunch in an old Tupperware box, always chose the back of the elevator, and never spoke unless spoken to. Her ideas went unnoticed in meetings. Her name was often mispronounced or forgotten. And the man at the top of it all, the elusive CEO, Mr. Ryan Iqbal, seemed like a cold figure carved out of stone. People whispered about him in the hallways. Brilliant, yes. But ruthless. Emotionless. He walked past interns like they were furniture. And to Mira, he symbolized everything that kept people like her on the outside. The gala was supposed to be a celebration, 100 employees gathered in a glittering hotel ballroom under golden chandeliers. Mira hadn't planned to attend. She didn't own anything fancy, and she feared embarrassing herself. But her mentor, a kind HR associate named Nyla, insisted. So Mira borrowed her friend's black dress, borrowed a pair of heels a size too small, and mustered all her courage to walk through the hotel doors. It was overwhelming. She felt like a porcelain teacup in a room full of crystal. Everyone knew someone. Laughter echoed in polished corners. She smiled politely and wandered, looking for a place to sit. She didn't see the small, VIP plaque on the table tucked near the front. It looked empty. Safe. Quiet. So she slipped into a chair, took a deep breath, and reached for a glass of water. As guests began to fill the seats around her, Mira kept her head low. But as she sipped nervously, she heard someone nearby complaining about the food being late, the speeches being boring, and the CEO being his usual, robotic self. And for the first time, something in Mira broke loose. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the ache in her feet. Maybe it was the quiet desperation that had been building in her since day one. But she whispered under her breath, "It's not just at events. I don't think he even sees us. The interns, the juniors. He walks by like we don't exist. Sometimes I wonder if he even knows what it's like to struggle." The man across the table looked up. Calm, unreadable. Sharp suit. Clean-shaven. Handsome in a distant, powerful kind of way. He said nothing. Just watched her, curiously. Mira blushed, realizing too late she'd spoken aloud. She ducked her head and avoided his gaze the rest of the night, unaware that she had just poured her heart out to the CEO himself. What Mira didn't know was that Ryan Iqbal had noticed her from the moment she entered the building months ago. Not because of what she wore or how she spoke, but because she reminded him of someone. His mother. A woman who, like Mira, had scrubbed floors, saved every rupee, and believed education could open any door. Ryan had climbed from poverty, too, but in doing so, had hardened himself, forgetting the warmth that had raised him. He had built walls so high around his success that even he couldn't see through them anymore. That night, her words hit him harder than any boardroom criticism ever had. He didn't sleep. Instead, he stayed up reading old intern evaluations. Hers stood out. She worked the hardest, stayed the latest, and asked for the least. The next morning, everything changed. Mira was called into HR. She feared the worst. Had she said something offensive? Was she being let go? But instead, she was offered a paid junior associate position. She thought it was a mistake. Until she received a note on her desk that simply read, "You were right. Consider this a new beginning." R.I. The days that followed were nothing short of surreal. She now had a real salary, access to mentorship programs, and a seat at meetings where her ideas were finally heard. Ryan began hosting open forums with interns and junior staff, asking for honest feedback. The entire company culture began to shift. He started visiting departments unannounced, sitting with team members during lunch, remembering names. Mira never directly spoke to him about that night. But one afternoon, as she passed him in the elevator, he nodded and said, "Thank you for showing me what I'd forgotten." Tears welled in her eyes, but she only smiled and nodded back. Glowing star, if this story touched your heart, if you've ever felt invisible, unheard, or underestimated, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our Apple of Hope. Your support helps bring more stories of resilience and redemption to light.